The turkey was still on the table, barely touched, my mother's rosemary glaze going cold on the platter, when my father told me I had until Sunday to decide. He set down his fork with that particular kind of slowness, the kind that means he's been rehearsing. He looked at me, not at my mother, not at my brother, at me. HR is going to want a statement, he said. You were in the building, you saw what happened. I already knew what was coming next. I had known since Monday night, driving home in the dark with my hands too tight on the wheel. I knew it the way you know a storm is coming before you can actually see clouds. You're going to tell them Rafe lost his footing, my father said, that your brother was trying to catch him. That's what you saw. That was not what I saw. What I saw, I had gone to my parents' office building Monday afternoon to drop off a crock pot my mother left in my car trunk after a potluck 2 weekends ago. I took the elevator to the 4th floor. I came around the corner near the stairwell and I saw my brother grab a man named Rafe, a quiet analyst who wore the same blue lanyard every single day, and shove him, hard, flat palms to the chest. Rafe went down half a flight of stairs and hit the landing wall with his shoulder and his wrist. And a sound I still hear sometimes when the room gets too quiet. I had screamed my brother's name. He turned around and the look on his face was not guilt, it was annoyance, like I had walked in on something private. Rafe spent 3 hours in urgent care with a hairline fracture in his wrist. The building's security cameras caught everything. And now, at my mother's Thanksgiving table, my father was telling me what I was going to say about it. I won't say that, I said. My mother put down her wine glass. She said my name the way she always did when she needed me to understand I was wrong before she explained why. The footage is unclear, my father said. He said it with complete confidence, and for a moment I wondered if someone had already spoken to whoever managed the building's security system. What isn't unclear is your statement. You were upset. You misread a chaotic situation. Your brother was trying to help. My brother sat across from me with his arms crossed. He had learned a long time ago that he didn't need to argue for himself. Other people did it. If you can't support this family, my father said, his voice dropping to that quiet final register I had known my whole life. This family cannot support your education. We are co-signers on your loan. We cover the gap every semester. 1 semester left, and I will pull that support before you get on the bus back to Chicago. He wasn't bluffing. I knew the difference. I looked at my mother's centerpiece. I looked at my brother's untouched water glass. I looked at my father. I said, okay. The word landed in the room like something dropped from a height. Okay, I said again, quieter. I'm tired. I just need to think about how to say it. Good, my father said. He leaned back. We'll talk more Thursday. I excused myself before dessert. But before I tell you what I did next, like and subscribe if you've ever been asked to lie to keep someone else comfortable. Drop a comment. I want to know where you're watching from. My name is Waverly. I'm 28 years old. I'm an architect in Austin, Texas. I have south-facing windows and a rescue cat who refuses to acknowledge my boyfriend, no matter how many treats he offers her, and my life right now is the most peaceful thing I've ever known. I say that so you understand what came after. Because none of it started on a Monday in November with a man falling down a stairwell. It started much earlier than that. My brother is 14 months older than me. From the time we were small, the gap in how my parents treated us was something I couldn't name, so I just absorbed it. He was louder, so he got more attention. He had more needs, so more of everything went to his needs. My parents didn't think of it as favoritism. They thought of it as responsiveness. I was never loud, I learned to work instead. When I was 15, I won a regional design competition, a poster and scale model for a county green infrastructure project my school's architecture teacher had submitted on my behalf. The award came with a $500 scholarship certificate, and my project displayed at the county library for 6 months. My parents were at my brother's lacrosse tournament the day of the ceremony. His team had made the semifinals unexpectedly, and the schedule shifted, and they had to be there for that. I'd told them 3 times. It was written on the family calendar in green marker. When I got home, I put the certificate on the refrigerator with a magnet. The next morning, it was in the kitchen junk drawer. My mother said, very gently, that the fridge was looking cluttered. The fridge had 2 of my brother's varsity letters, his sophomore class photo, and a bumper sticker from the lacrosse booster club. I took the certificate to my room. I put it in a folder. I never mentioned it again. I decided that day that my only way out of this house was a path I built entirely myself. I applied to the architecture program at UIC on my own. I wrote my own essays. I found my own scholarships. I got a partial merit award that covered about 60% of tuition. My parents covered the rest, reluctantly, and always with the implication that my brother's position at my father's commercial real estate firm would generate more long-term value than my degree. It was support, but it was conditional support, the kind that comes with a return address. I was careful about that. I started taking freelance drafting work through Upwork. Small residential clients who needed CAD drawings at a lower cost than a licensed firm. I built it slowly, set aside every extra dollar, and by the fall of my senior year, I had just over $9,000 in a savings account at a credit union I'd opened at 18. My parents didn't know the account existed. One semester left, I was almost out. And then my brother shoved Rafe down a flight of stairs. I sat in the guest room that Wednesday night with my laptop open and I looked at my inbox. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I had received a job offer from a small architecture firm in Austin. Garland and Wren Associates, 4 principals, 12 staff, the kind of place where junior architects actually get to touch projects instead of spending years redlining other people's drawings. My thesis advisor had recommended me. She knew one of the principals from a fellowship year. The offer was for a junior associate position. $62,000 a year, full benefits, start date flexible but no later than January 3rd. I hadn't responded yet. I'd been waiting to see how the semester settled, hoping maybe stupidly for a quiet ending. I emailed my thesis advisor at 10:15 p.m. I explained that my home situation had changed and asked whether remote completion of my final semester was possible. She had mentioned once that the program allowed it for students who had secured full-time employment in their field. She replied at 11:40. I don't know if she was up late or just checked her email compulsively, but her answer was 3 sentences. Yes, you qualify. Send me your employment paperwork and I'll process the enrollment change by Monday. I sat with that for a moment. Then I opened the job offer and replied to the firm's HR contact. I confirmed my acceptance of the position with a start date of January 3rd. I closed my laptop. For the first time since Monday, I felt calm. Thanksgiving Day, I helped my mother make pie. I made the crust from scratch. She'd always said mine was better than store-bought, and she was right about that at least. I crimped the edges on the marble slab and I said nothing about HR or Austin or any of it. My mother talked about a bathroom renovation she was considering. I said things like that sounds nice and what color are you thinking? At dinner, my father said grace. My brother helped himself first the way he always had. Somewhere between the sweet potato casserole and the second round of turkey, my brother looked at me and said, "You thought about what you're telling HR?" "Still thinking," I said. He nodded slowly like he was giving me time like it was his to give. "Just don't make this harder than it needs to be." I picked up the cranberry sauce. "Can you pass the rolls?" After dinner, my father and brother watched football in the living room. My mother and I did the dishes in the same rhythm we'd had since I was tall enough to reach the sink. When the kitchen was done, she hugged me. She smelled like dish soap and the vanilla candle she'd been burning all day. "I know this is hard," she said into my hair, "but we're your family. We have to protect each other." I hugged her back. There was nothing left to say. I went upstairs and I packed. 1 rolling carry-on, the small one that fits overhead. My portfolio hard drive, my document folder, birth certificate, social security card, both bank cards, my car insurance, my laptop. 3 changes of clothes, my good blazer, my drafting tools. I left the rest. The books, the prints on the wall, the drawer full of things that had once felt important. I set the bag by the door and lay down in my coat and set an alarm for 5 a.m. I was gone before anyone was awake. The Uber arrived at 5:23. I stood on the front porch in the November dark, my bag at my feet, my breath making small white clouds. The neighborhood was absolutely silent. The Christmas lights on the house across the street blinked on and off in a slow, patient rhythm. I picked up my bag. I walked down the steps. The front door opened behind me. My mother was there in her bathrobe, blinking in the cold. She looked at the bag. She looked at me. "Where are you going?" "Austin," I said. "I accepted a job offer. I cleared remote enrollment with the program. I don't need the tuition money." She stared at me. "Your father?" Tell him I'm sorry about the pie crust, I said. I know it's his favorite. I meant that part. The Uber pulled to the curb. I put my bag in. I got in. I watched my mother standing on the porch getting smaller through the rear window until we turned the corner and the house was gone. My brother called at 7:40 a.m. when I was in the Greyhound terminal with a vending machine coffee. I watched his name light up my screen and I let it go to voicemail. He called twice more. My father called once. My mother sent a text that said, "Come home and talk to us like an adult." I put my phone in my bag. The bus left at 8:15. I got a window seat. I pulled my jacket over me and watched Chicago shrink and then disappear. I cried somewhere in southern Illinois, which surprised me. Not when my father gave the ultimatum, not when I packed or walked out the front door, but somewhere south of Springfield, I pressed my face to the cold window glass and cried quietly for about 10 minutes. Not from grief, exactly. More like something I'd been carrying for a long time had just been set down. And my body didn't know how to adjust to the weight being gone. Then I stopped. I opened my laptop. I worked on my thesis revisions until the battery ran low. The bus crossed into Texas before sunrise the next morning. Garland and Wren was real. That sounds obvious, but what I mean is, it was the kind of place I had convinced myself didn't exist outside of my own imagination. My supervisor had been practicing architecture for 22 years and told me on my first day that she expected junior staff to speak in meetings without waiting to be invited. My desk was a real drafting desk. When there were questions about design intent, people asked me. I defended my thesis via video call in March. My advisor connected in from Chicago, 2 professors from their respective offices. I presented 40 minutes on adaptive reuse of industrial waterfront structures. When the panel came back, I heard them confer for 4 minutes, and then my advisor said, "Congratulations, Waverly. You're done." I graduated in May. There was a ceremony in Chicago I didn't attend. I had dinner at a taco place near my apartment with 2 coworkers, a friend from the firm, and my boyfriend, who I had started dating 3 months after I moved, and who had acquired, at some point since then, a complicated and ongoing dynamic with my cat that she refused to acknowledge in his presence. We stayed at the restaurant until it got loud with the Friday night crowd, and the waiter started hovering. It was a genuinely good night. The kind that comes back to you later, complete and golden, when you need to remember your life has good things in it. My parents called 6 times in the 8 months after I left. I listened to the voicemails when I felt ready. The early ones were angry, compressed, and careful the way my father got when he was working hard to stay controlled. My mother cried on one of them. My brother left a message in month 3 that was half apology, half ultimatum, and I had to listen to it twice to make sure I'd understood it correctly. I blocked all 3 numbers in month 4. I found out about what happened through a college friend who still lived in the suburbs and followed local business news. The HR investigation concluded 8 months after I left. The security footage had been clear enough. Rafe cooperated fully. 2 other staff members who'd had similar experiences with my brother gave statements once the process was underway. My brother was terminated. He wasn't charged criminally. Rafe settled privately, which I understand and don't judge. But the termination went on record, and my father's firm lost 2 of its 3 anchor clients in the year that followed. My parents sold the house when I was 26. They moved into a 2-bedroom condo in a suburb I'd never heard of. I learned all of it secondhand. I was living my life. I'm 28 now. I was promoted to project architect 8 months ago. I'm leading design documentation on a mixed-use development near the river. Nothing enormous, but it's mine. My name goes on the drawings. I sleep without an alarm on Saturday mornings, and I make coffee at whatever pace I feel like. And nobody has ever, not once in this apartment, told me to be quieter so someone else can rest. It sounds small. I know it sounds small. But those ordinary freedoms, the ones you don't even recognize as freedoms until you've lived without them, I don't think I'll ever stop being grateful for them. This past Thanksgiving, I roasted my first turkey. My boyfriend made the sides. 2 friends from the firm came and one of their partners, and we ate in shifts because my dining table only seats 4, and there were 5 of us, passing things around and spilling the gravy and laughing about it. It was the best Thanksgiving I have ever had, by a distance that isn't close. I was doing the dishes afterward, running water over borrowed plates from the neighbor down the hall, who'd overstocked from a wedding registry, when my phone buzzed on the counter. An unknown number, but I recognized the area code redirect pattern. I stood there with wet hands and read the first line. "Hey, it's your brother. Got a new number. Been wanting to reach out." I set the phone face down on the counter. I finished the dishes, I dried my hands. I put the plates in a bag to return tomorrow. My boyfriend came into the kitchen looking for the extra pie he'd set aside, and he asked if I was okay, and I said yes, and I meant it completely. Later, when the apartment was quiet and he was asleep, I sat on the couch in the dark with my cat arranged across my feet, her small weight warm and completely indifferent to my emotional state, which is something I find deeply comforting. And I thought for a long time about what I might say if I ever responded. I thought about the porch in the November dark, the vending machine coffee. Southern Illinois through a bus window. The first time someone at the firm asked my opinion about a project, and then actually wrote down what I said. I deleted the message. I didn't block the number. Maybe I'll feel differently at some point. But I didn't need to decide that tonight. Tonight I had leftover turkey in the fridge and a cat on my feet and a life I had built. Stone by slow stone, dollar by dollar, one quietly made choice at a time that nobody had given me and nobody could take away. That was enough. That was more than enough. If any part of this sounds familiar, if you've ever been the one who was always a little less important, a little less urgent, a little less worth protecting, I want you to know that the quiet ones get to leave too. And sometimes, when you finally get somewhere you can breathe, you realize the leaving was the bravest thing you ever did. Hit like if you believe in building something better for yourself. And leave me a comment. I genuinely want to know where you're watching from.